Welcome to Studio Theatrica and the video series The New Normal, Swedes on Corona and the Silver Lining. My name is Ottiliana and I'm broadcasting to you from Umeå in northern Sweden. This is my third episode and today I will be interviewing Dr. Ouma. She is a scholar and a developmental researcher from East Africa, currently living here in Umeå while working internationally. I'm very interested to learn what's her perspective on the corona crisis and what is happening globally, as well as here in Sweden. And in particular, I am curious about the pearl. Does she see a silver lining? If so, what? So with that said, please help me welcome Dr. Ouma. Okay, Anne, we are so happy to have you on. So could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, whatever you like to share, and why you're in Sweden and your work? Any projects you want to tell us about?
Yeah, why I'm in Sweden? Well, I'm a world citizen. I'd like to put it that way. Sweden is one of the many countries we've lived in. So I'll leave it at that. But why northern Sweden? I'm not a big city person. So northern Sweden works quite well for me, for us as a family. I have certain projects in the pipeline. But of course, given the prevailing situation, one has to make various adjustments to what one has to do and what one needs to do. Mm-hmm. Specifics, projects, one of them is, just learning how to work with, virtual sort of a forum for training and for engaging with different individuals all over the globe. So that's a project I think it's not just starting, but it's developing from the stage it was last year.
And so you're from East Africa?
Yes.
And how was that more rural, like northern Sweden, or was it like a big sprawling city you're from?
I say East Africa because I was born in one country and then I was raised in another. Mm-hmm. And I've lived pretty much in all the three, if you like, East African countries, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. So that's why I say East African. Mm-hmm. But my parents lived in a city and they grew up in the rural area. But my parents, my father, my mother lived in a big city. But as I said, we pretty much moved a little bit all over the place. I haven't lived in rural East Africa for a long time. I didn't grow up in the rural area. But I studied botany, and that seems to be the energy that I prefer. I like it a lot. I work with it also in my adult life. So I think it links a little with that. I studied environmental sciences, and a lot of that, of course, you get it in the rural area, not so much in the cities, although that's changing.
Yeah. Well, and I think we must do another talk in the future. I love plants and herbs, and I grow lots of my own stuff in the countryside, and I eat and drink and consume lots of different herbs for health and usefulness and strength and so on. So I would love to discuss those things.
Yeah, sure. That's sure. That's lovely.
But
nice to hear.
Yeah, but now we're talking about the focus is the corona pandemic and the crisis. And so my first question, I have my cheat sheet here so that I poses the question in the correct way. So my first question for you then is, how has the current coronavirus crisis changed the way you live? And are there any positive changes you plan to integrate into your life more permanently?
Has it changed the way I live? Yeah, most certainly the way, if you like, inside, within the household, it certainly has, because there's less engagement. I have family, spread all over the place, and family is sort of your rolling motor, if you like. So when you are not able to engage with them, physically, only remotely, then that certainly takes its toll on the emotional and mental sphere. We are a people who, we were different. So that has changed, to be constricted in one space and not being able to sort of engage with family, friends. That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
But positive changes, I think we are in the 21st century, and there's so much. I didn't grow up in in this sort of internet space. So it's not a challenge, but it's a positive. It's a positive thing to know, because I'm a learner. To know that now it has to do with developing your ability to integrate a more virtual engagement with friends, family. I grew up with this, but now we are talking Skype, we're talking Zoom, we're talking. How do you integrate that into your life more permanently, so that you're still able to engage with both co-workers but also family in whatever context? I think that's positive. Positive because, as I said, I'm a learner. The other thing is that I work a lot with health, alternative ways of living, and in my view, the coronavirus has brought out a lot that also is embedded in what I work with, mitigating dis-ease. It's the positive changes for me is to sort of reinforce what I have worked with and I continue to work with, reinforce the approach to help myself, my family, and people I work with in understanding, overstanding, and understanding that mitigating dis-ease is not a luxury. It actually is a necessity. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great. And do you feel fear, safe, and or hopeful in this situation? If so, how?
I don't feel fear. I do feel safe, but hopeful. My little space in Umeå, I'm hopeful that on a personal level, that the projects that we started will actually expand. There'll be an expansion because the awareness is growing. And why do I say the awareness is growing? I can feel it, and I can see it, that there is an awareness of what I just talked about when I answered your first question. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm hopeful.
Great. What do you miss most from before this pandemic, and what do you think is needed to make that feel safe to enjoy again?
That's a tricky one. Yeah, what I miss most, the surrounding, my space and the wider space. There's a lot of fear, and I live in a university town. I miss the young energy. I miss, the vibrant, if you like, thinking, the vibrant work, working space. I do miss that because there's a lot of fear energy when it comes to the way I work and the way I engage with family and friends. There's not so much that has changed because given my branch, you're able to sort of work in a little differently. But what do you think is needed to make that feel safe to enjoy again? I think we need to work more in helping ourselves to understand what really is the issue. To understand that what really is the issue, because we are supposed to enjoy ourselves, enjoy doing what you're doing. So I think to feel safe and to enjoy ourselves is a birthright, if I now could go philosophical. But what is needed is to help ourselves understand, overstand what really is the issue. Why is the pandemic affecting us and how? And because the pandemic has revealed a lot of how we are and how we live. So I think what is needed is sort of to help us understand what really is the real issue.
And according to your perspective, what is the real issue or issues?
If I start talking about that, we won't go home.
But maybe you could give a few examples, and it actually might be that would come up in the other questions. But as we're here now, I'm just very interested.
Yeah, I mean, I work a lot. As I said, environmental sciences mainstreams my work and my lifestyle. And, when I look outside, I see, and I look at nature, nature takes its time. Recently we had spring, and then now we are almost in the middle of summer. But, in the last, if you like, 15 years, 20 years, we've gone from, being a society where we listen to each other to society where we don't have time to listen to each other and to listen to ourselves, to listen to me. What am I saying? And so the pandemic has sort of slowed us down in a way. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It has helped us slow down to see, okay, what really is important in life. And I think that's the first step.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I so agree with you so completely on that. What will the new normal look like in the future, and how do you intend to contribute to that, if in any way?
I don't know what the new normal will look like because I don't know what normal is. Mm-hmm. However, to contribute to the discourse, to the space, I have been contributing, I believe, and I do intend to continue contributing in terms of mitigating dis-ease, mitigating health unease. Mm. I will continue to contribute. I've done that for many, many years, and I intend to contribute to that, both on a personal, family space and in a wider sense to those I work with and meet, and those who are open to it.
That makes me very moved. Moves me very much. Beautiful. What do you think about Sweden's approach to handling the crisis?
I'm not a politician, so I'll say it the way it is. Mm-hmm. I think Sweden is a special country. It's of all the countries I've lived in, Sweden has very unique, special sort of ways of engaging in crisis situations, and Sweden is very unique in its approach to health care. I have family who live in the UK and the US, and I mean, it's two worlds apart. However, when it comes to how we've handled the crisis, I like to say, for instance, that social distancing is not so new. If you break it down, it's not a new paradigm in Sweden. If you enter the bus, the norm, if you like that term, is social distancing. So, and that's not the case in the UK. If the bus is empty and there's somebody over there, you go and sit next to that somebody.
Which you wouldn't do in Sweden,
You
ever.
wouldn't do that here. So social distancing, you could say, is a norm in our setting. But how the political space has handled it, I wouldn't really want to comment on that. But I think that the fact that um, I live as I said, in Umeå, which is a university town, to allow the young people to sort of get out and go back to their own spaces. I think that's very positive. That's very positive. There are a lot of other aspects of it that are mainly more political because you don't work in isolation anymore on our globe. I like the fact that Sweden has engaged in talking to our neighbors, our Scandinavian neighbors, because Scandinavians work a little bit differently when it comes to health and healthcare as compared to mainland Europe, for example.
Mm.
And I mean, I do a lot of research on public health, folk health in Swedish, and I know that I understand why we've handled this approach a little differently from what expectations are there in the wider globe.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. How do you use technology to get around the situation, and are there any keepers for the future?
I've used the virtual in my work as late as early as 2 years ago. I was able to Zoom for the first time with a colleague in the UK, and at that time it was, I don't need to meet her. I don't need. As I said, it's so refreshing to know that you can share the documents with somebody online. You can, engage as you and I are engaging just now. Skype was there, but Zoom and there are other forums. Cisco, we just had a meeting last week with a team from all over, Västerbotten, and it worked so well. So I think that this is the future. Although I still feel that the natural, the contact, is still also very, very important, and we shouldn't run off. In my view, we shouldn't run off and forget that, because as I always joke with the younger people and family, that even animals, when you see them walking, you see them walking through the footpaths, they're always smelling each other and eyeing each other and watching out. Who's that? So in nature, there's always that physical curiosity. So we shouldn't leave that out. But I think that this is a future. Different technology forums are just going to get better and better. And that's our times.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now, the second to last question, do you see people and groups using the current crisis as an opportunity to create better or new systems in some kind of way? If so, how?
Oh, yes. I've seen family making, groups online to just chat, not with an agenda, a meeting. This is what we have, just to chat. And that's refreshing. Yeah. Especially if you're not living in your own country where you were, born and raised. That's very, very refreshing. I've seen groups I was pleasantly surprised. Not so a few days ago, I met a friend on LinkedIn who has similar interests, and we just had lunch 2 years ago in Kenya. And 2-3 days ago, she linked me up and said, "Are you interested in joining this group? Because we want to discuss and we want to get, to exchange information and see where that goes." And I mean, I know her; she's a friend, but we haven't been linking up in the sense, on a consistent basis. But I mean, this is a group with loads and loads of people from all over the place in Asia and Africa and here, who are doing what I love doing. I thought that's amazing. If this crisis hadn't happened, maybe it would have taken a longer time. So there's a lot of stuff happening. There are a lot of groups being created who are working virtually, which is a good thing. But then again, I believe in depth. So where is that going? How is that going to be better in future? Because it's good to meet and to talk, to chat, to share. But how will we put depth into that?
Then the last question: silver lining in this situation globally as well as in your own personal life or professional life?
I'm hopeful. I'm positive. I don't think you need any more to talk about. I wouldn't say you don't think, but I see a silver lining because there's an awareness growing in terms of taking care of what is most important in one's life, both on the personal level, but also a little. I mean, I've been following this discussion in terms of how many hours do we actually need to be working every single day in Sweden in the formal sense. And that's refreshing. Do we need to have laws that give a little bit of space? I've worked before in an international organization where you have a flexible way of working. You can come in at 8, you can come in at 10, but you do your 8 hours because we are different. We are human beings, and diversity is what you see in nature. Diversity is not negative. Diversity is positive. It's we human beings who put a negativity on diversity. And so when you look at the fact that we are discussing in this country and in other places too, that, work-life balance, which is something I work with, work-life balance is very important. Some people are very good at working in the afternoon. Loads are good at working from 5 a.m. and by 11:30 now, they've done a lot of good substantive work. And so, that I think is beautiful to see how this crisis will help us in our work-life balance. I'm hopeful, not just in Sweden, but globally, that people will see that, we can engage virtually. And so maybe we can carve out a different way of working, which, you and I looked at public health statistics, global health statistics in different ways, and you and I know that we are at a crossroads when it comes to both personal but also national and global health and well-being, if you like. Yeah. So, but I see a silver lining. I really do. I'm positive. I'm optimistic.
Beautiful. And in closing, is there anything else you would like to add or share with whomever will be watching this interview?
Take care of yourself. It's not anybody's. I am the best person who knows myself. Nobody else knows me better. So it's vital right now to that one is able to understand, understand, and overstand, if you like. Taking care of one's health and well-being is one's own personal responsibility. So that's my closing
word.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us, and I'm sure many people will be inspired by your thoughts and also your depth and your knowledge. So to all the viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, everyone. Next up, I'm going to be talking with Robin Wallén. She's 18 years old and she just graduated from high school. She studied humanities with a special focus in linguistics. She's very bright and very wise. So please join me in the next episode. Until then, stay sound and safe. Remember, this is our time.